Welcome back, everybody, to Game 4 draft for the LHGPL Grand Finals between the Akuma Shurikens and Omega Gaming Syndicate. We saw Akuma strike back in Game 3 and take us into this Game 4. Omega Gaming still sitting here on match point. The teams have swapped sides here. My name is Gordo, and I'm joined once again by Rudude. As Rudude, the bans are coming through and still not changing for the side of Omega Gaming.
Not coming through thick and fast here, and we have to remember that Syndicate here, they've won 2 games. They just needed to. They're probably just going to try and divert back to one of those compositions or one of those play styles that netted them a victory in past games. We can see that Akuma have now got themselves the potential of a Graves pick here. We have to remember that the sides have once again swapped, so Akuma have that blue side pickup. And they're actually going to go for the Kindred here, something that was pivotal in that top side 2v2, which was able to, essentially snowball the entire game out of control. The Kindred came up huge for the Akuma roster. And going into game number 4, I mean, there's no reason for them to not take it for themselves here. They've still got the Graves as an answer if Syndicate want to go for it. We could see something a little bit spicier indeed.
Yeah, potentially going to be a different aggressive jungle pick here. The Volibear was able to get so far ahead in the last game, but wasn't able to actually do the carry work at the end of the day. This Nidalee, going to be a different story. A lot more damage on that champ.
Exactly. Excuse me, Fallen Artemis is able to go ahead and pick up those kills this time around. Nidalee is a much better champion to be able to pilot the gold that you get from a 6-0-4 kill status. If you get in on that assassin style Nidalee playstyle, you can definitely carry a game and potentially take down a Kindred before the Launcher Spike even comes out.
Potentially can. And now we're going to see what Akuma decides to respond with. We've already seen Omega have some very good success with this Jhin in this series, able to win Game 2 with its help. Now going to be picking it once again for this Game 3. The Ziggs being covered again by Akuma, and it is going to be locked in. We're going to see that reprised once again, as they might just run it back with the same team comp.
Exactly. If it ain't broke, don't fix it here, Gordo. They're going to go for this roster that they ran. In game number 3, maybe look to pick up that same Nautilus pick once again down in the bot lane. Paired so well last game. And it is just going to be the exact same thing, it looks like. Does incredibly well into the Jhin as well. And something even nicer for the Ziggs this time around is whenever the curtain call is opened up, you have such a free shot on the Jhin with not only the Mega Inferno Bomb, but if you're in range to throw a couple of other skill shots down, then you're just able to do so as well. Not to mention the Sassfield Charge also interrupts Jhin ultimate, so if the Ziggs is ever in that level of range, then we can definitely look to see that cooldown exploited. I think that the Ziggs into the Jhin matchup in particular is even better than the one they had into Caitlyn.
Yeah, but definitely not going to see another Morgana pick into it this time. It's going to be the Galio lock-in. This is a flex pick between a support and mid lane. Have seen it support already this series, but regardless, I think it's unlikely that we see another Morgana pick from Omega Gaming. Was ending up pretty counter-picked out by the Ziggs.
Yeah, exactly. The answer really, well, it wasn't really an answer. It was more so just a pickup going through and enabled the sort of mitigation of the Black Shield, right? The Ziggs works beautifully into that Morgana. And I feel like if we're trying to mention this Galio as a flex pick, we have to think about Intexi in particular on a Galio, and it's just not the play style that fits him as a player, right? We've seen him on the Galio, on the Syndra. We know he's high impact, high mobility, and high gold effectiveness as a mid laner right here. So if we see that Galio going to a mid lane, feels like it's limiting the amount of carry potential that Intexi will have. Yes, Galio can do wonders, but when you're trying to limit, when you're trying to play through a mid laner that is so powerful, so dominant, giving the Galio over to Intexi just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, and Akuma going to be picking up 3 out of the 5 champs they had in their draft last game, so Omega going to respond by banning out the other 2. Both solo laners that Akuma had picked up the last game are now off the table. They're going to have to take a different approach for their solo lanes this game.
Indeed, and we have to, that makes us think back to the other games that we've seen them play, and the other one that, they were more dominant, I'll say, in game number 1 in particular. They opted into Ari Renekton as their solo laners, right? Don't expect those to come through this time round just because of the defeat that they suffered in game number 1 here. And actually a Swain pickup for Omega Gaming Syndicate here as an answer to that Ziggs Nautilus bot lane. This could be Swain mid lane, which we haven't seen in a very long time with that Galio support. but it could also equally be that Swain in the support role. Pairing with Jin, it's actually pretty potent. A lot of potential to lock down a Ziggs, lock down a Nautilus, and take down these early game squishy members on the Akuma bot lane.
Could even be a Swain top lane, depending on what
Mm.
matchups we see for it to be flexed into here from Akuma. Akuma timing out here, have not selected a champion. We will find out what that pick is very shortly. It is going to be Nico as the selection there, and now they're going to be able to pick their fifth champion now that the Nico has been settled on. Just going to be hovering on to something else here.
I have to think what that Nico is going to be, what role that Nico is going to take. It's probably going to be in the top lane, right? With that glacial augment as a Nico, something that we've seen. Whenever we see Nico, typically tends to be the glacial up on the top lane. But that being said, they're looking at Volibear as their other solo laner, so you have to imagine that Nico is going to take place in the mid lane and maybe just try and farm up a little bit easier versus what could be a Galio, could be a Swain. Everything's still up in the air for the Syndicate roster. It could all be locked in here with a single pick.
Definitely the case here, and now Omega has the opportunity. They can counterpick the Volibear here. They can even run the Swain into the Volibear if they're feeling it, or they can have a counter pick for their top lane and send the Swain over to mid lane to face off against that Nico. It is going to be that as they lock in the Ornn for this game 4.
Yeah, so a little bit more team fight presence here. An Ornn champion that we've seen slip through the drafts time and time again. Finally, Syndicate falling back to something tried and true here. Blood King on the Ornn in the top lane. Ornn as a champion just so potent at every single aspect of League of Legends. Does everything beautifully. Assassin, mage, bruiser, tank, all of it. Provides CC to the team as well. That wonderful team fighting ultimate can be so impactful in these team fight situations. I have to see if Blood King is able to sustain the early game and weather the storm of the Volibear, because in that topside matchup will definitely be in a rougher 1 versus 1, and we've seen the power that Nine Line Clan can have when ahead. Yes, this time is on a Volibear. Doesn't have the same carry potential that the Fiora does, but we have to remember that this isn't by any means a weak champion. Volibear will have a brilliant time trying to get onto the Jin. And when we look across the side of the Omega Gaming Syndicate roster, damage isn't something that they have in abundance here. Trying to take down the Volibear could definitely be a difficulty because they've not really got that tank shred capability that we've been so key on given after that Mundo pick.
Absolutely the case there, as we are going to be seeing. It is likely to be it could be Swain or Galio mid, honestly. We still are not 100% certain on that, but nonetheless going to be probably a less hard carry mid laner, favoring something a little bit tankier facing down this probably Nico.
Definitely, and I'd want this Swain to actually go into the mid lane. It's not something that's been around in a fairly long time here, but I feel like the Swain into the Nico is something that they can just farm up, go fairly even with one another, and the Swain can definitely punish a Nico a little bit with those never moves into the Vision of Empire. Short trades, definitely the name of Swain's game pre-level 6. But equally down on the bot side, there's a chance for the engagers to come through because into a Nautilus Ziggs bot lane, they're two fairly immobile champions in their own right. Yes, they've each got niche escape tools, but they are able to be punished by a never move Deadly Flourish combination. That being said, Nautilus can definitely punish a Swain on the counter end of that, similarly with a Jin as well. Both of these champions very susceptible to getting taken down by a Nautilus, none of which have the safety of the Black Shield this time in the laning phase, and even when they did, this Nautilus was so powerful that Asymmetric was able to find the openings regardless of the counter of Morgana.
Certainly was in that last game, and now it's going to be confirmed Volibear top, no Volibear mid shenanigans in this game, as we're going to see the Ornn locked in here for Blood King and the Nidalee for Fallen Artemis. The real question is what's going to end up going towards that mid lane.
Definitely is sitting with tension here in the later stages of the draft because we just don't know where these champions are going to go. And with regardless of where the champions are going to go, something we can do is talk about the team comps more generally, more broadly here, and we can sort of see some identity starting to emerge really for the team. Because whenever you pick a Galio, you're looking to see if there's a dive buddy to go with it. And unfortunately, looking across the Syndicate roster, you maybe fear that this Galio is going to be a more disengage-oriented hero's entrance. Something to protect the backline, protect the Jin, protect the Swain, because even though Nidalee and Swain and Ornn all typically want to be in the front lines dishing out damage, they don't have the greatest tools to get in there for themselves. If an Illy jumps in and can easily get bursted out by something such as the Nico, and especially when a Kindred gets picked up, Dive becomes so weak and so mitigated by the power of that Lamb's Respite that it's just not quite the same impact that you're looking for from the Ornn, from the Galio, from the hero's entrance to really pack a punch.
And it is going to look like it's going to be in Texi coming through onto this Galio, bucking some people's expectations, as he has been primarily a carry player throughout a lot of this tournament and a lot of this league. But he is going to be coming through on the Galio this game, playing a more supportive role, as his support player, Rutinium, going to be playing a more aggressive role, picking this Swain to pair with the Jhin in bottom lane in an attempt to bully Alive and Asymmetric.
And this means that there's a lot more focus down on that bot side now, because if Galio was down in the bot lane, yes, we'd have two fairly engage-oriented supports, but they'd be able to probably go even with each other, and it'd be, a more standard sort of tank and ADC combo, tank and carry combo down in the bot lane. But with Swain Jhin, these are just two outright damage dealers down in the bot lane, and Swain providing so much CC, so much setup for the Jhin to start off the fights. We could see the bot lane go either way. Both Asymmetric and Rutinium both have the potential to turn this lane in their favor, and it's going to be on not only the supports here, but on Alive to throw out the poke and make it stick onto Twisty, and at the same time the synchronization of these skill shots. Remember, both of these supports here have the ability to pull the enemy toward them, which can leave some distasteful synergistic matchups when you throw the bouncing bomb and it goes over the pull of the champion. Similarly with the deadly flourish, pulling them out of that with the Swain passive is something that is definitely going to need to be worked on, and we'll see the synergy in the bot lanes coming through, because if they've worked it and practiced it, they'll be okay. But if this is something that they've adapted on the fly and gone, yes, Swain is good into Nautilus, we can do this, but the Jhin and the Swain as a combo might not be there polished as a combination for the duo.
Definitely something to watch out for here, and we are going to see Fallen Artemis coming back through on one of these carry picks, something that he has performed incredibly well on this series thus far. He was able to get the Lilia in that game too, and that was the hardest win Omega Gaming has found thus far. So exciting to see him back on one of these hard AP carry champions in the Nidalee. Going to be expecting him to make some heavy gank plays early in the game, trying to get himself incredibly far ahead, as he's really been able to do all 4 games.
Exactly. Even the game that they lost, Fallen was really sort of a standout member as who was picking up the kills, who was able to come in clutch and try and neutralize some of the plays. This time on the Nidalee, the Cougar in the jungle, we want to see Fallen living in Akuma's jungle right here. And when you pick up this Nidalee, you're hoping for winning lanes to enable you to walk in and start intimidating Hexmist in his jungle. But looking at the solo laners that they've picked up in Texi and Blood King, they probably won't have the priority to roam and help out Fallen. So we need to be really cognizant of who is where on the map when Fallen Artemis starts to go into the enemy's jungle, if he even chooses to at all, because that's what Nidalee excels at. But when you've got these weak-sided solo laners, you need to be really thinking about, can I go for this invade? And if I can't, just respecting it and not doing it, and just taking your own jungle, power farming like Nidalee can. That Runic Echoes, when it is completed, a big power spike for the Nidalee, and should start being able to take the duels versus pretty much anyone.
Definitely going to be what we're watching out for here. And with all of that said, and with all of the chips laid on the table, we are going to take a quick break to get loaded on up into Game 4. We will return as soon as the game does. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody, to Game 4 of the LHGPL Grand Finals between Omega Gaming Syndicate and the Akuma Shurikens. We've got another side swap coming in for Game 4 as Omega Gaming still on game point, but we're not able to win the third game. My name is Gordo, and I'm joined once again by Rudu. As Rudu, we might have a little bit of level 1 action here.
Twisty's falling for the same old, same old. No flash from asymmetric this time round, so the trade of flash is not going to be used. Twisty able to walk on out just about for free right there, but this bot lane really going to be name of the game, and they're still looking for a little bit of a maybe scuffle in the jungle.
Rutinium throwing on out that never move there, looking to pull people in with the Ravenous Flock, but not quite going to be able to land it on multiple targets, only getting it onto Alive, so they're just going to back on off from each other here.
Yeah, and this Swain bot lane is really going to be the story of this game, I feel like, because if the Swain is able to punish the Ziggs Nautilus lane, then there's definitely a world for Twisty and Rutenian to take over and really start dealing the DPS down across the Akuma roster. But on the other side of that, we saw how powerful Alive and Asymmetric were as a bot lane with this exact duo here in the last game. And if that is able to come to fruition, then there's always the world where a bot lane carry can just take over. Kindred gonna get a solo start off on the red buff, and the Nidalee gonna start on her own red buff with the leash of a jungler. So both of the side lanes at the minute have control over the wave, and they know what they want to do in terms of pushing and not.
Definitely, and it's going to be the early push advantage coming for the side of Alive and Asymmetric. As you said, that Ziggs is going to be a powerful pushing force, especially in these early levels. Got to keep an eye out on Rutinium now. Does have access to a lot of CC that he could dish out if he manages to pick up onto Alive or Asymmetric. Twisty and Rutinium have a lot of damage between the two of them. They could potentially get something here, and they are going to land another move onto Asymmetric.
Yeah, constantly throwing out little bits of harass, little trades here and there, and that's where Swain does excel as a bit of an advocate for Swain in every role possible. Fairly familiar with the trade patterns and the do's and don'ts of Swain in the bot lane. And when you're before level 6, what you're looking for is those never moves into Vision Empire, and then, pulling back, getting 2 souls for the price of 1 trade, essentially. And then you want to call it quits, cut your losses, and go away with it from there. As you can see right there, they're looking for the pull in, and then that is about it.
Ooh, and that's going to be a big Justice Punch coming in the mid lane, and Texi winning this fight against Sluter, not even having to use the Winds of War, as Blood King now getting ganked on by Hexamus, who's just going to back away, though. He's pretty tanky, and he has access to the dash, going to manage to escape here.
He doesn't even need to burn the flash right there. Blood King just walks out with style, with a very low HP bar, but style nonetheless right there. Hexamus making the presence of Kindred felt early on, and we could see him go into the mid lane as well.
Yeah, Hall and Artemis, though, going to be lurking around here as well, currently clearing out that bottom lane scuttler. Rutenium taking a trade down bot with Alive, but he will take that any day as the opposing carry is the one taking all the damage. Never move, landing onto Asymmetric yet again. He's getting yanked back in, and now they're going to be going aggressive. Twisty's at full HP here and is firing each and every one of his shots down towards bot lane, and there's a spear coming in from the wall. Asymmetric sees it in time, though, and flashes away.
Yeah, a little bit of an Indiana Jones moment right there as the spears are firing arrows out of the walls into you. Good flash from Asymmetric, dodges out on the Vision of Empire and that Javelin toss to keep themselves safe. We can see Fallen Artemis is around. They know he is taking these golems right here, and you can see that on the top side. Blood King looking for a trade, but...
Yeah, Nineline Klein, though, going to be finding the better of these trades. He is on the better early game champion here on Volibear, going to be getting these frenzying strikes on to try to heal back up now, but Hexamus coming up for the gank yet again. Just going to be dashed away from by the Searing Taj, taking 1 turret shot each, but not going to go for the dive.
Yeah, the final auto of Mountain Dread wasn't quite able to be put through for Hexamus. Didn't have the hail of or the dance of arrows to get himself in, get out either with the that sort of mobility that Kindred so often has in the early game. You can see that with all the time spent on the top lane, they've burned the flash of Blood King, but they've not managed to get anything else. No kills have been yielded on this top side. And that has netted a nice CS lead for Fallen Artemis. He's been able to farm up this entire time, spent a little bit of time throwing a Javelin bot lane, but went right back to farming. Kindred didn't get the chance to counter jungles. We see an engage in the mid lane once again in Texi trying to go hard in this Nico matchup.
Yeah, another good trade for him there. He's able to land these Justice Punches onto Nico while she's standing still and is then able to convert that into a full trade here, dodging out on the necessary skill shots to prevent himself from getting traded back on. And even at a 1-level disadvantage, looks like in Texi able to find good trades here.
Definitely. This, mid lane Galio has taken the aftershock, so is looking for that tanky, sustained sort of CC capabilities as we move later into the game, and means that the trades that he's taking with Sluter in the mid lane are actually going to be fairly easy for him because he jumps on in, gets the CC proc, and as soon as Sluter trades on back, the aftershock typically is still available, still active, and the return damage just isn't quite there yet for Sluter in this Nico. Gone for the Glacial Augment as we'd anticipated, and another fight in the top lane going to get dashed away from.
Nine Klein once again going on in there, getting the stun down with his Thundering Smash. Now it's going to be Intexi actually looking for a trade in the mid lane, going to get the Pop Blossom out and be forced to flash away. Sluter hitting that level 6 mark before Intexi has it available, getting him a little bit off guard.
Yeah, but now there's no ulti for Sluter. Fallen's here.
Yeah, and Fallen Artemis going to land the spear, going to get it flashed away from by Sluter, but it's already on him. The hunt is already on, and Fallen Artemis is going to be able to pick up first blood here. Takes a couple seconds to do it, but manages to pick it up at the end of the day. Dragon, though, going to go over to the side of the Shurikens.
Yeah, and you talked about we wanting Fallen Artemis to make things happen in the early game. Is up in CS, up now a kill. A Dark Seal picked up on the first recall here as well. Definitely looking to make something happen, get some early game snowballing going, and really put the Kindred down. We saw that Hexmist was able to make things happen on the Kindred, but Fallen Artemis now with a carry of his own, trying to go toe-to-toe and step up in game number 4.
We can see it is going to be an invade attempt coming in from Hexmist here. He does want to be able to get onto these golems that have the mark on them, and he actually wants to take away the red buff, actually. Going to be moving up here, seeing if he can take that away. Has not yet been caught out here. Asymmetric does get hit by an Italy Spear, but is going to actually be able to dredge line him in. They're now going all in on a Fallen Artemis, but it's going to be a 2-man stun. Hexmist flashes over the spear critically, but it turns out Fallen Artemis is able to flash away. At the same time, he's going to finally be picked up by the auto, and that's going to be a mark going on over to the Kindred. Hexmist now pushing forward, but going to get hit up by the Never Move. Rutenium just melts through him, and now is going to be forced to flash away, but he's going to get dredge line back in. It's going to be a 2-for-1 in the extended trade in favor of the Akuma Shurikens.
Yeah, Asymmetric making that roam much earlier than Rutenium did, and even though he had to only walk from his base, it's a 2-for-1 for Akuma. They have the much stronger 3v3 on the top side, and despite the level lead for Fallen, the Volley Bear discrepancy, hitting level 6 where Blood King is still level 5, is the difference maker. Those 2 ganks in the early game have now come to fruition. They've got themselves the advantage, and it's all off of the back of the top lane play. 9-line Klein going to get TP'd on, but he's absolutely fine in the top side.
Yeah, not a lot of threat coming in from the level 5 Ornn as Blood King completes that TP, but he is going to be able to pick up a nice fat wave for himself, prevents himself from getting set too far behind against this Volibear. As now we can see the game still incredibly close here, 1-1-1 scorelines on both junglers, both looking to make some big plays in this game to get their teams ahead in the early game.
And they have to, right? Both of these junglers are on feast or famine style champions, and if they aren't able to get ahead, then it just feels so rough for each of them. Blood King once again down 2 levels in this top lane, having an absolute torrid time in these last couple games.
Yeah, certainly is now trying to pick up as much CS as he can, but just struggling to get even a modicum of CS here in this lane, as he's just continuously being forced away. He's down 12 CS, 2 waves now, and as you said, is also at a level disadvantage.
And you can see now Fallen is looking to make something happen in this bot side of the map. Rutenium is here as well.
Vision of an Empire. It's going to cause Asymmetric to path a little bit wonkily, but he does manage to path around it and escape. No follow-up from Fallen Artemis going to be available, and now there's a potential to dive in the top lane. 9-line Klein does not have the ultimate available, but will pretty soon.
Yeah, and with the Kindred up there as well, not completed the Warrior enchant, but there should be enough damage to try and take down this Ornn. Only a cloth armor in terms of defensive stats here. Yes, the HP from Barmies is nice, but would much rather have an extra little bit of armor. Maybe the Ninja Tabbies or something like that. We can see 9-line Klein sparing no expense, trying to walk on in and trying to secure some plates for himself and get this advantage really going in the top lane.
And Hexmist did find an opening there to go and steal away the mark on the race, which means he is now on 3 Kindred marks. Only 1 more needed to be able to get that range increase. Excellently played early game here by him, but Fallen Artemis going to find him on the face check, going to immediately get the Mounting Dread placed on him, along with the Dance of Arrows coming in, going to have to dash away, not going to be able to actually secure that kill for himself. The spear comes through, but it's going to go wide. Intexi here for the backup, but it's not going to be enough.
No, and Sluter there just to back up as well. 9-Line Klein gets himself the plate in the top side, and now with all the pressure that has been exerted into that mid-jungle duo by Hexmist pretty much solo, Blood King now needs to really be careful because Kindred has the opportunity to go into that top side of the map, really force the issue in that lane. An asymmetric.
Oh, and that's going to be a hook coming in onto Twisty as he's just going to be CCDS to flash away to prevent himself from going down to the Mega Inferno Bomb. And now Ruthenium is frontlining with that Demonic Ascension, actually dealing so much damage here. The Never move comes on through. Asymmetric now burning down from the Ignite, but he does manage to survive with just a tiny bit of HP. No kills going on in this bot lane.
And Alive flashed in front of the fourth bullet right there, saving his support, putting his own life on the line to get away and keep Nautilus alive right there. Absolute heroic gameplay from Alive on the Ziggs right here. You love to see that one. And after the 2v2 looked so good for Akuma, it gets turned back around. Here comes that
Blood King
dive.
finding himself getting dived. He's going to have the ultimate from Galio coming in. The hero's entrance does occur and does survive long enough for the turret to come back online, but it might not be enough as Hexmist is able to pick up his fourth stack. He now has the increased range. He also has the Rift Herald that he picked up just recently as he's starting to snowball ahead in this game.
I think Taxi focusing the wrong target on the back of the hero's entrance right there, trying to get the volley bear from under the turret, but not recognizing the imminent threat of Hexmist. They're able to take down Blood King just with enough time before that turret came up, dropping the aggro before the last turret shot would have come through and forced out that Kindred ultimate. Nice little play on the top side by Akuma once again. They're putting themselves even further ahead in this game and starting to get that little lead turning into a bit of a bigger one.
Is starting to snowball ahead here. Fallen Artemis hasn't quite been able to find the gank paths he wanted, although he has been able to farm up substantially as a couple of camp lead onto Hexmist here, although Hexmist is already picked up as many of the marks as he's going to need for the first range buff. So it's certainly going to be pretty close between the two of them, and now Akuma going to be moving on here onto this dragon. They're going to pick up their second of the game.
Yeah, number 2 in their favor, starting off fairly well. Sluter.
Ooh, and that is going to be a stun landed over onto Fallen Artemis, but he is going to manage to get away here, and the spear comes on through with the backup, but Fallen Artemis not able to get the extended range off the hunt, and so is eventually going to get picked up here. A misplay by Fallen Artemis at a key moment going to lead to him getting taken down. Hexmist now just firing arrows back over the wall onto the side of Ruthenium.
This Kindred has Warriors fully unleashed, and Intexi going to get caught as well.
Yeah, but it's going to be Blood King coming down off the top lane. Hexmist actually flashes forward to try to make it happen, but Blood King now has found himself alone with him as he's getting chased down by the rest of the members and is going to try to back off here. And here comes the curtain call from the other side. The Demonic Ascension going to come through from Ruthenium as he goes on into his Zonias, going to keep himself alive. They're going to end up with a pickup onto Asymmetric, and now they're chasing out onto Hexmist. Here it comes as the Never move going to be dodged away from by Hexmist and able to pick up the support on the other end. They really want to shut down this Kindred, but they aren't going to be able to close the gap.
No, and Blood King in trouble.
Oh, and now 9-Line Klein has found Blood King in the jungle, going to be chasing onto him. He might have a little bit of backup from Twisty, though, so going to be able to back away.
Yeah, and all that time Alive down in the bot lane.
And here comes, it looks like Fallen Artemis, not dissuaded here, going to smite away his own red buff from the side of Hexmist here. Not going to be able to chase any further, though, thanks to that tanky Volibear running interference.
Able to just about take away his own red buff right there from the invading Kindred. Definitely not the look that Syndicate are wanting this game, and not definitely the position they wish to be in here. Twisty roaming up, using the ultimate to net a kill onto Asymmetric, but in the meantime you see Alive bot lane able to take not only all of the plates, but the turret as well, using that satchel charge. That is so much gold on this Ziggs. If our lovely producer Simalcom would toggle the gold for us right now, there is a full lost chapter, a full BF sort of discrepancy in the gold between the two bot laners at the moment right now, and a level lead as well for Alive. That roam for one kill, definitely not worth it in the kill in the grand scheme of things.
Certainly not, as we can see Sluter has finished up the Super Soaker, going to have access to that now, along with his Glacial Augment. Ruthenium still throwing out these E's, trying to nab somebody and yank them in where he can, but they are constantly being dodged away from.
They are. They're getting, you know, if that cooldown is with Swain support, really does just become the ultimate at that point. And without it available, you saw it right there, how detrimental it is to get caught out by a Kindred. Level 7 is still incredibly squishy, further behind the Kindred than would like to be if you're trying to take those duels, and even though Swain in his own right is a carry, with the limited economy that the support role gets, definitely feels the brunt of being low on that gold.
Really does. And now Fallen Artemis going to be raining those spears across yet again, trying to get out damage, going to almost actually steal away the scuttle with one, but not quite, as Hexmist is able to pick it up here.
Yeah, he uses the smite to secure that one for himself. No big deal with no Drake spawning in the foreseeable future. And now we see that Ziggs setup coming through. They're looking to break down this turret once again, using the short fuse in combination with the satchel charge.
Oh, and that's going to be the Never Move coming in onto Hexmist, going to pull him back in and going to force out the Lamb's Respite as the rest of the dive is coming through, but they aren't able to follow up without the help of Hexmist. Now it's going to be the Curtain Call coming through, getting the slows down, and quote the Raven, never move, as they come through and get 2 more targets and pull on in. Asymmetric have already melted down alive. Now Asymmetric going to go down as well. That's a double kill over to the side of Twisty as they are winning this 4v4 fight. Rutinium going to eventually go down to Sluter, but they can collapse onto him. It's going to be flashed away from the Nidalee Spear as Hexmist is trying his best to carry this fight. Eventually, after a triple kill, Twisty is going to go down, and now Hexmist has the opportunity for a double kill. He picks up 1, he picks up 2, and he's going to solidify that fight in the favor of his team. A triple kill to the side of Hexmist. He's carrying this game.
And it is so close, that team fight. A couple kills going either way.
Oh, and a huge taunt under turret for Intexi, but not actually going to be able to get the second shot off the turret, but it's enough. They trade 1 for 1 at the end of the day.
The Sky Splitter doing the final lethal damage to Intexi in the bot lane duel. And this game is still up in the air right here. Hexmist on the Kindred. This pick from Game 3 and Game 4 being pivotal in the team fights. We saw team fight. The HP at the end was so close to taking down Hexmist. But really importantly, Sluter landing skill shot after skill shot. This Nico actually really paying dividends in the duels, really. The Blooming Burst in combination with those Tangle Bobs, hitting time and time again. Not one of them missing in the team fight, and constantly putting out enough CC, enough damage to enable Hexmist into these winning positions, to take the kills and take the glory.
Absolutely, and now Fallen Artemis finding himself getting pressured onto by a couple of members of Akuma here, as they are going to be backing away here, and it looks like Asymmetric might have bitten off a little bit more than he can chew, finding 3 members here in this bush as he gets yanked back in by the Swain, now going once again, sub 100 HP, but not quite able to be picked up, as Intexi now finds himself alone on the front line. Blood King coming to support him here, as the other members are going to back away. This might be an advantage of positioning on the Dragon for the side of Omega Gaming Syndicate.
You can see the poke from Nidalee and Never Move. Poke is so detrimental to the side of Akuma. They're looking for the poke, but Ziggs has just as much.
Oh, and that's going to be a slow on multiple targets. They're going to be landing the snare, and here comes the Pop Blossom onto Intexi, going to get onto 3 people as Intexi is melted down from immediately. Blood King also going to go down, not even having access to the ultimate for that fight. Rutinium going to be killed as well, as it's a 3 for none in the favor of the Akuma Shurikens. They're now going to be able to start up this dragon.
And it was a 4v5 as well. That poke from the Nico, poke from the Ziggs, coming up huge in the forefront of the team fight. They're able to take down 3 members. They're able to take down the Dragon as well. Twisty going to use the Curtain Call for wave clear at the very most, and for nothing else at the least right there. We're only 18 minutes into the game. After a team fight like that, you feel like Baron should be on the table. But they get themselves Soul Point. It is once again only a Cloud Dragon. But they're going to be able to pick up a few Drakes, get themselves off towards Soul Point. As I mentioned, 18 minutes into the game, we could be in for a very early Elder.
Certainly could be, Rudude, and if we're in for that early of an Elder, we might be in for a 5-game series here as well, as Akuma are just running through this second game, very similar to how they were able to run through the previous one.
They are, and all of the gold this time around on a more traditional carry. Twisty for Omega Gaming Syndicate, really feeling like the sole burden of execution needing to be on him entirely. Has the majority of his team's gold here, has all of the resources funneled into him with that 4-1-0 status in the kill score. But he's staring down a Kindred with 8 kills here. Storm Razor fully completed, and he's still sat on a chunk of gold himself, going to be able to go back, get himself likely a Zeal, and be able to continue to pump out the DPS. This game's still a little bit closer because we've seen Syndicate be able to find the picks a lot more easily than they were in the previous game. This Nidalee Swain combination has actually been doing pretty well when trying to find the picks, when trying to stop the engages from Akuma. It's still all up, it's not quite as up in the air as we'd expect, but I still want to give a distinct advantage over to Akuma.
There is a distinct advantage for Akuma, but it is those picks you were talking about that might be the opportunity that Syndicate needs. All of this gold lead is currently in the hands of Hexmist, so if they are able to pick off this fairly squishy Kindred with the correct set of abilities, then they can easily win team fights afterwards.
they should be able to, but with that, they have to remember that they're trying to fight down a Lamb's Respite as well. That Kindred ulti is going to be so useful for them, because if there's even a second where they get caught out, the safety that is provided to you by that ultimate is just too crucial of a cooldown that cannot be forgotten. Blood King as well, time and time again, we've seen fights erupt without Ornhorn and Rutenim his bot lane. Now 2v1 maybe going to come out.
And now going in on to 9-line Klein, it is going to be the call, the Forge God coming through from Blood King, but meanwhile, Intexi and Fallen Artemis are going in onto Xmist in the jungle, but Intexi may have bitten off a little bit more than he can chew. He's going to get hit by the Dredge line and is going to get taken down. Meanwhile, the fight, the bot lane has been turned around just as easily as Hexmist throws down the Lamb's Respite to try to prevent him from falling down to Fallen Artemis. It is going to flash away and it is going to be shut down before he can complete the pounce. Hexmist once again gets 2 kills and barely stays alive as they are able to win the fight in the bot lane as well. 9-line Klein and Sluter able to force out the opposing laners and able to take an advantage for themselves.
Yeah, that's 2v2 on the bot side going Akuma's way. The 3v3 on the top side as well. Everything now fully coming up Akuma. Twisty, the one remaining member left on the top side to maybe try and do something to this Baron. But Hexmist is too strong. They're going to be able to take this for free.
Asymmetric just living his whole life at sub 100 HP this game, getting chunked down there by the Baron too, but doesn't feel any threat as the rest of Omega Gaming Syndicate have been forced back into the base. He's going to channel off that recall. They've secured the Baron for their team. They've secured 3 dragons for their team, and it looks like Akuma Shurikens might be forcing us all the way to a Game 5.
And the series was only just getting started after the first 2 games, it feels like here, Gordo. And Akuma have fully turned themselves online, going down 2-0. Now they're looking at going back, pulling it to 2-2 here. With 21 minutes into the game, there's an 11,000 gold lead for Akuma here. They have all of the tools available to them to pick up this Cloud Soul, pick up the game, and force us to those game number 5. The silver scrapes can be played, ladies and gentlemen, if Akuma are able to close out this game in the convincing fashion which they did with game number 3 here. Should be a trivial task at this point with the gold lead they've got.
Certainly should be, as we're going to see Fallen Artemis still just fishing around with these spears, but they're not going to be doing the damage he was hoping for, as he's been put so far behind on this Nidalee pick. It's going to be Sluter throwing a clone in to check out these bushes, face check some things for him. So they're going to be posturing around this dragon. This is going to be the sole Drake for them if they're able to secure it. About 30 seconds left on that spawn.
And they're likely going to be able to take it as well if game number 3 is anything to go by. 9-line Klein is in a very big situation of danger.
Yeah, he's going to be getting engaged on here by Fallen Artemis and by Blood King, but he's able to just turn it around along with the Mega Inferno Bomb coming around from the other side. He gets knocked up by the Call of the Forge God, but it doesn't even matter as he's just walking forward with this massive bear with the Stormbringer already turned on as they're just going to be continuing on through this fight. A huge Pop Blossom comes around from the flank on the backside as it's going to be a complete wipe for the side of Akuma Shurikens. They're going to get the 5-for-0 ace, and with the Baron already secured, they're going to be able to close out this Game 4 on this push, and they're going to be able to take us to a Game 5, Rudu.
Cue the silver scrapes, everybody. It's Game 5 here at LHGPL. The finals are not disappointing here. The analysts predicted it, the admins predicted it. Everybody thought we'd be getting to this game number 5. Fallen, the last member trying to defend, but this is just going to be a doomed Nexus.
And we both called it at the beginning of the night, Dude. It is going to be going all the way as the Akuma Shurikens take out the 4th Nexus of this series. No soul required, and they are going to bring us all the way to Game 5.
And as anticipated, it feels like the prophecy holds true. The 3-2 meme is going to continue here, and the Omega Gaming Syndicate side now need to come back, rally themselves after a devastating 2 games. They've had 2 cracks already at the game point, but now they're going to have to do it with the exact same thing on the opposite end for Akuma here. Both teams now, it comes down to that best of 1 at the end of the day. It's going to be a huge game. This one in particular, though, focusing back in on where we came out of, what happened even in that game. And this time it is very obvious where the advantage was. Looking at the kill score alone, Hexmist was the single most impactful member in this team. The all-star jungler living up to the title here. Most gold in the game, most kills in the game. And I think if we toggle that damage graph as well, distinctly the most damage as well. No doubt in my mind, a Hexmist takes MVP for this game.
Yeah, not quite as difficult of a choice as we might have had in Game 3 there, as Hexmist continuously able to outplay his opponents and able to get himself a significant advantage on this Kindred. As close to a solo carry as we could expect from any game in this series, and certainly gonna be feeling pretty good about that. An easy MVP to award.
Definitely is here, and whew, game number 5 around the corner, but this is just what we expect from a finals, right? We can see that we've got the two best teams here, and they're definitely giving us a show, everyone.
Yeah, and with that, we are going to be heading on into the next champion select after a short break. Do not go anywhere and stay tuned for Silver Scrapes, everybody, as we are going into Game 5.